So I was supposed to be releasing a Flynn's video today, but for some reason Dawei had just given up on concealing the Luna 2 beta, and literally everything is already out, and I mean everything, before we even have Luna 1's release, which is insane. And in the midst of this leak, Nuke, my wife and favorite Nordcry character Nefer has been shown, and oh my, we potentially have the third strongest DPS on our hand. Hello there, Flip here, and today we're going to be going over Nefer's full kit, showing DPS calculations as well as potentially good teammates for her, and then lastly give a small meta evaluation on her because she's currently looking to be insane. But before we do that, as always, if at any points during the video entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin's meta and I'll try to keep you updated. Shout out to my very extensive list of channel members, I really do appreciate the support, it means the world to me. Hugs and kisses to you all. Hopefully that's enough talking to show everyone. And also, in a bit of time, both Nahida and Llama will be on banner, so if you'd like to cut down on the costs while going for them, then I would like to announce the sponsor for today's video, LD Shop. LD Shop is a very safe and reliable top-up site that allows you to get Primo Gems at a great deal starting from 15% off, while keeping your data safe. As for transactions, you only need to type in your UID and region, as you can see me doing here. Just needed to quickly refresh my welkin, and as you can see, it's here. And make sure to use my link, as that way you'll receive an extra 15% off coupon, as well as a 5% off coupon which can save you up to $50. LD Shop goes through official channels as well, meaning that you won't lose any of the in-game benefits like first-time top-up bonuses, so no need to worry. And additionally, because LD Shop is so great, users who spend over $80 will receive a VIP membership which rewards you with free welcome moons. So head over to ldshop.gg using my link in the description below. What are you waiting for? Thanks to LD Shop for sponsoring this video, now back to it. So Nefer is pretty much just like Flynn's but Lunar Bloom, and in my opinion just has a better kit, to be honest, even disregarding the numbers. She's another Dendro 5-star catalyst because we just didn't have enough already, and like with Llama, her basic attacks really aren't anything special, and her charge attack is used for exploration, which is nice quality of life, although at its base doesn't really do anything. Pretty much all of Nefer's kit is in her elemental skill that, like Varessa, has 2 charges, and when casting it, it makes her enter the Shadow Dance stance for 9 seconds, and she deals AoE Dendro damage on cast. In the Shadow Dance state, if you at least have one Verdant Dew, which if you don't know what Verdant Dew is, it is generated every 2.5 seconds when a Lunar Bloom is triggered, and when Nefer has at least one of these, her charge attack will be replaced with an enhanced one. This enhanced charge attack will summon clones of Nefer that will deal 3 direct Lunar Bloom hits that scale purely off of Nefer's EM, and Nefer herself will do 2 hits that scale with her attack and EM when she does a charge attack, but those 2 hits will just be regular talent damage. Nefer can do 3 charge attacks per skill state, and she's using 2 of these skills a rotation for a total of 6 charge attacks, which results in 18 Lunar Bloom hits over a standard rotation. And like with Flynn's, it is all of her damage pretty much, but because Flynn's damage is tied to his burst, which is my main problem with him, Nefer should be a lot more comfortable to pilot, as she has no need to build energy at all. Speaking of energy, we can discuss her elemental burst that is just a Dendro nuke that scales off of both Nefer's attack and EM. The only issue is that apparently Nefer already has like a decently long field time, with supports that also have a pretty long field time, as most of them are 5-stars that want to use their burst, which makes it so that if you want to fit within an optimal 18 seconds or shorter rotation, Nefer has to skip using her burst as it's a damage loss, which is so sad as it's like the hottest thing ever, her clones just caressing her body. The only times where you'd want to use her burst is if you're forced into a 20-second rotation regardless, or you have to use her burst in order to wait for Verdant Dew so you can do a charge attack, but optimally you're most likely skipping this. Now to go into passive talents, let's just start with her Ascension 4 as it's the most underwhelming, but it gives her 200 flat attack. No, I am not joking, they are giving 200 flat attack to a character that barely uses attack in her kit, as her direct Lunar Bloom scaling doesn't care for it at all. For her bonus Ascension, she just has the Llama one that gives her 14% base Lunar Bloom damage bonus and increases the Moonsign level of your party, and then her A one is the really interesting one, but it's way too long. Let's read out. For starters, you need to be an Ascendant Gleam for this passive to even work, so this means using Aino and Nefer, or more importantly Llama, and then after casting Nefer's skill, any Dendro cores on the field will be converted to Seeds of Deceit, and any further Dendro cores created will also be converted, and won't be able to be triggered to create Hyper Blooms or Burgeons. That is the first part of the passive, and it means that for Nefer teams, she has to be played in Bloom teams as essentially the carry with no Bloom trigger on her teams. This means that Nilou, who lots of people were hoping for potential synergy with, just doesn't work, and also means she doesn't function as a replacement to Hyper Bloom drivers or Quick Bloom DPS, as unlike traditional Bloom teams, Nefer, despite being a character that cares about Bloom generation, doesn't need a Bloom trigger on her teams, which actually does bring in some issues, mainly with the fact that besides Llama, Nefer has pretty bad quality teammates. Lots of Burgeon or Hyper Bloom teams didn't have to worry about bringing 4 strong characters, as one of those characters would just be a trigger, so all that mattered is a good rate of applying your element. But with Nefer teams, you obviously want Llama, a Hydra unit, and then you kind of have to stretch from there. Nefer is a charge attack oriented DPS that is Dendro, so she loses things like VV and Jillin and Reshred, and she also doesn't benefit from damage bonus. As like with Flynn's, most of her damage will be direct lunar damage, which doesn't scale with damage bonus. So you're bringing a Hydra unit to generate lunar blooms, which your best bet will most likely be Aino or Yelan. Then for your last team slaw, anything that buffs EM goes, or just any character that won't ruin auras too heavily to impede your lunar bloom generation. You can run double Hydra teams, Sucrose on an EM buffing set works, Diona at C6 with Elegy works, Nahida gives 250 EM, Zhongli shreds Dendro resistance, and so on. Because all of her options are undefined right now, it doesn't really matter that much who you decide to use. Like with the Natlan DPS, her options will most likely be fleshed out in more depth later, as both her Hydra options and her fourth slot looks very sad right now, especially factoring in the fact that you want to bring a sustain on her teams, and all her sustains besides like C1 Llama or prototype Amber Nahida kind of suck. Now to get into the second part of her passive, which shoots her from being decent to very strong, every time she does a charge attack she will consume 1 Verdant Dew, which means that you're just never using Llama's hold skill, you would be consuming too much Verdant Dew. And also when you do a charge attack, Acida Deceit is consumed, increasing the damage dealt by Nefer's charge attack by 10%, stacking up to 3 times for 30%. And no, this isn't an additive 30%, this is multiplicative 30%, making it a 1.3x multiplier to her charge attack, which is absurd. Assuming this means her last 4 charge attacks will have this 0.3x multiplier, and her first 2 should be slightly weaker. Before showing my calculations, for reference, this takes her from a 90k to 100k DPS character to comfortably like 110 to 120k DPS in some teams, assuming you have Llama. I calculate her with Deepwood, Yelan, and Tenacity Zhongli, which I could even optimize slightly more, and I was getting very good results, making her theoretically at least the 3rd best cheating character behind Malvika and Skirk, and a bit above Varessa. I did also look at a Baizu team, but it's a decent bit worse, so And if you decide to run a sustainless team or use Nahida with prototype Amber, which is kind of fake sustain, then she looks to cross the 120k DPS range, but keep in mind this is day 1, V1, things will most likely change. I don't expect it to stay this high, and I'll clean these calcs up later a lot more in V2 with more teams. Another important thing to note about Nefer teams is that she does damn near all of the team's damage. Since Llama can't use her hold skill, she doesn't trigger lunar blooms, massively reducing her damage output, and then there aren't really that many other sub DPS or supports you can run that really boost the team's DPS by adding Nefer. So there's a very high chance for Nefer teams to grow when she's doing this much damage per rotation. Like even comparing her to Skirk, the damage per rotation with Skirk and 3 characters that buff her is very similar. It's just that Skirk supports do more damage than Nefer supports, which is really holding her back currently. So yeah, Nefer has some of the best numbers in the game. How that actually translates practically, and even if she survives to live, we will see. Characters like Mualani don't necessarily sheet the best on paper, but she's like one of the only 5-stars that can clear Dire comfortably without another limited on the team, and she's able to push damage breakpoints very fast, making her better than what calculations reflect. One issue I do want to highlight with Nefer though, while I don't even know if I want to call this an issue anymore, more so a trend, is that yes, you really need Llama for Nefer to feel good, but you don't necessarily need Nefer for Llama to feel good. Both Llama's Hyperbloom teams and Nilibloom teams are among some of the best in the game, and they simply just don't need a Nefer. Whereas if Nefer doesn't have Llama, the other Nordcry options do so little for her that's not worth pairing her with a Nordcry character to activate her passive that reduces bloom restrictions. And instead you just use her as a generic Dendro DPS, where she can be used with triggers like EM Raiden or Kuki, or just slapping her on a Nilu Bloom team. That is her current situation without Llama, so it is just not worth pulling for if you're not putting her with the deer. All in all, Nefer is looking to be a very powerful DPS unit, assuming you have Llama potentially even being the 3rd best DPS in the game currently, as her numbers do back this, and with the fact that she's doing this with 2 dead teammates, it's actually pretty impressive, and her kit seems to have a lot less jank than someone like Flynn's, so I'm honestly more inclined to recommend her over getting him if you care about meta, as she should be great into clearing the Nordcry checks besides the lunar charge ones obviously. But with that, I have nothing else to yap about. I'm just really excited for Nefer. Her kit looks very interesting and she's a beautiful fucking character, and will most likely be the channel mascot for the next year. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Nefer, as I'd love to hear and respond to almost every single comment. Channel members, I love you all, you mean the world to me, and I do deeply appreciate the continued support. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.